Hello and welcome, I'm DrHamfist, and in this video I'm going to be explaining the guild and town upgrades in Heroes of Hammerwatch. And I had to do a lot of digging to find some of this information out, so I thought I'd make this video and save you that effort, right? We're actually going to make a new toon here, and there's a reason for that I will explain in this video, right? But let's just start this new priest here. And first let's cover town upgrades. So you went into a dungeon, you got some ore. What are the best ways to upgrade your town using the ore? You always go here to this vendor to upgrade your town, and when you first show up here, you'll have the first tier of upgrades unlocked. You'll have this first row. You can spend ore to unlock following tiers, but it's pretty expensive to do so. And when you first do that, say you sink some amount of ore to get to tier 2, you don't actually gain anything for that ore immediately. And then you have to spend an even greater sum to unlock the upgrades that are tier 2 upgrades. The tier 2 buildings are more expensive. So it's generally better to get most of the upgrades at the tier you're on before you actually push for another tier of upgrades. And just to cover what each of these buildings are, right? So leftmost, the treasury. This one is surprisingly important, actually. It might not sound so, but if you are playing multiplayer, this is the only building that matters if you're on somebody else's host. If you're in somebody's town, you can go spend money at their upgraded blacksmith and get, their upgraded guild hall to teach you skills and go use their upgraded shop. But your tax rate is actually determined by your town's treasury. It's the only thing that matters what your town has when you're playing on somebody else's, oddly enough. There's no explanation for that, but do upgrade your treasury first if you're playing on other people's towns most of the time. This is still definitely an important upgrade if you are not playing on somebody else's town. If you're on your town, this is actually still a great one. It gets you more gold, and gold is how you leverage all of the other buildings, basically. So it's still very important. It's just not the most important thing if you are on your town. If you're on your town, the most important thing is the guild hall, the next one over. This gets you upgraded skills. Upgrading this further lets you buy higher ranks of skills, which A, lets you improve the skills you already have, but then eventually gives you access to further skills you don't have when you start with. And all of those skills that you get later are super powerful and super good. So you definitely want to prioritize this. I would think this is probably the most important one for every single class whenever you unlock a new tier. So when you go to tier 2 buildings, go get the guild hall first. Without a doubt, I think this is the most important for every single character. Next over, the general store. I think it's important to get one level of this and then probably just hold off. When you buy it, it gets you the ability to buy keys and items, which cost gold. And this is town gold, right? This is not like a shop at, start of the run or something. You can spend your town gold here, which means you are losing the ability to buy other permanent upgrades. But keys are super important. Keys get you items. They're pretty cheap as far as the quality of items you will get. Don't overbuy keys, but buy some keys. You get random items from those chests that you open with the keys. But the thing is, getting a bunch of items in just a weird hodgepodge, it helps you complete item sets and does actually give you a lot of bonus. And it's a pretty cheap way to get that bonus and get deeper on the runs. Upgrading this store, you get more and better items available in the shop, but the better ones are also more expensive. And then you slowly get this incremental discount on specifically the items, I think. I don't think it reduces the cost of keys. So I would get the first upgrade in general store. I wouldn't really prioritize the rest of it. Come back for it later, I would say. Next over, though, the blacksmith. This is either very, very important or pretty important, depending on what you're playing. If you are on somebody that has primary attack damage as really a crux of their build, and do kind of keep in mind, if you're playing warlock and primary attacking a lot right now, you won't be later. So do kind of think about where you're going too. But it lets you buy upgrades to your primary attack, your armor, which reduces physical damage you take, and your movement speed. So even if you're playing, like warlock and you have a terrible primary attack, you do still care about armor and move speed. To begin with, you can buy upgrades to your armor, move speed, and attack damage. And then eventually you'll sprinkle in critical hit chance with primary and critical hit damage with primary. And you'll keep unlocking subsequently higher upgrades that are more expensive gold-wise each time you upgrade your blacksmith. So definitely important, and then very important if you're playing the ranger, paladin, thief, anybody that does use their auto attack or their left click a lot. Next over is the ore trader. My advice would be just ignore this for a long time. It lets you buy and sell ore. You should not be selling ore if you care about your town. And as far as buying ore, you buy the ore trader using ore to then earn the ability to then buy ore using an outrageous amount of gold. So why wouldn't you just keep the ore that it would have cost to unlock this in the first place, rather than having to dump a bunch of gold to eventually slowly profit? Like, just spend the ore somewhere else in the first place until later you have a ton of gold running around and can afford to throw a bunch of gold at this. So once you've got a ton of gold, then you can come back for the ore trader, but I would not make this a priority at all. The apothecary, you do have to, I believe, find the actual, like, you know, potion person apothecary in the dungeon to unlock this, but it gives you the potion and then upgrades to the potion, and also later it increases the amount of health or mana you get from pickups in the dungeon. So if you find fruit in the dungeon or whatever, it gives you more health. This is always an important upgrade for every single character, and if you're playing somebody that isn't primary attack focused, you probably do care more about this than the blacksmith early on. If you're playing something that cares more about the primary attack, probably the blacksmith before the apothecary. But just as far as things we've seen so far, guild hall without a doubt, and then apothecary, but possibly behind blacksmith, and then also just treasury somewhere in there. Those are the important ones. Don't do the ore trader, get one in the one in the general store, and then kind of leave it. Moving forward, the stuff you need a higher tier of town to unlock. First is the fountain. Don't get this early, except for its zany factor and if you want to have some fun with it, right? So you throw gold into the fountain, and then something happens to your next run. This has 5 different effects, or different quality of effect. It can be good, great. It can be bad, terrible. Or the last one, it will just say something happened, and what that means is 1 good and 1 bad. So, you know, 1 in either direction and the mild version of them. There's a few different things it can give you. So it can increase the quality of item pickups. It can give you more little side rooms full of loot. It can give you these weird little, like, invisible tiles that are highlighted. You can see them, but like that let you, like, walk over and circumvent, like, gaps in the map. So it lets you, like, shortcut traps. It lets you pick up those weird little chests that are stranded on an island with nowhere to get to them. But also bad things. So this can increase the number of elites that you're having to run to. This can, I believe, reduce the item quality you find. It can increase the number of red cap archers you run into, which, if you know what those are, they're terrible. So it can do good or bad things. It only does it to the next run. It makes the game zanier, but you're also spending town gold to do this. Like, you're spending gold you sent back to town, and it doesn't do any permanent upgrades, and in fact, it can even hurt you. So I would definitely not focus on this early if you're trying to optimize, you know, how quickly you can progress. But if you're just trying to mix your game up, that's really what this is for. And then when you upgrade it later, higher chance of good things happening. At this point, it actually becomes great to sink a ton of gold into this. So late game, you will actually throw a bunch of gold in the fountain. But early game, when it's not upgraded to the tier 4 town upgrade, I wouldn't focus on it. The next 3 buildings correspond to the unlockable classes. So first, the chapel. You can get this whether or not you have actually found the priest in the dungeon, because there is no priest in the dungeon to find. The other 2 unlockable classes you do have to go find. But the chapel unlocks the priest, and also unlocks this permanent progression track that is your basically like this small skill tree of like 3 skills, or like 3 like talents or something you would call them. They're passive benefits, and they are outrageous expensive in gold. That's all you need to know about them right now. I'm going to make another follow-up video that explains them, but the first upgrade costs 10,000 gold, and it's like character specific, right? So for each toon, you have to spend 10,000 gold to actually get the first upgrade from the chapel for them. And then the following chapel upgrade unlocks the tier 2 upgrades of those blessings, and I think that's like 20,000 gold. And then the final one, it's like 40,000 or 50,000 gold. These are like outrageous numbers we're talking. So don't focus this for the blessings unless you have that kind of gold rolling around. But do consider getting the first one if you want to play the priest, right? The next 2, you do have to go find the corresponding character trapped in the dungeon to unlock them. So I think Apothecary is in Act 1. You can find the Thief in Act 2. He will be locked in a cell. You have to go find the button to unlock him. Once you've unlocked the Thief, you can come back to town, then still pay ore to unlock the Tavern, right? Tavern unlocks the playable Thief class, and it unlocks Gambling, which the short of which is you should probably never do. There's one case to do it. I'll cover that in the video about the actual chapel blessings. But generally, you probably don't want to gamble because you do statistically lose money doing it. So really, you unlock the tavern to get the thief, and there's no upgrades for the tavern. It's the only building like that. So yeah, you don't really use it for the gambling, but if you want to play the thief, you do want to unlock the tavern. And another note, before I leave, if you're playing on somebody else's map, somebody else's town, and they've unlocked the thief, you will not find the thief in the dungeon. So if you want to unlock the thief, you have to play on a town that doesn't yet have the tavern. So if you're new, your buddies aren't, you do need to play on your own to unlock the thief if everybody else has. And that doesn't mean you can't play with your friends. They can play on your map. Magic Shop, this is found or available after you find the wizard. The wizard is in Act 3, and he's behind a crack in the wall. So once you go find him, break through the wall, speak to him, he'll warp back to town, and then you can, once again, just like the thief, come back to town and buy this shop with ore again. And then same logic as the thief. If everybody else has unlocked it, you need to play on your town to find him. This is like the blacksmith, but for magic. So it gives you skill upgrades, and then it gives you resistance, which reduces the magic damage you take. So even if you're playing a primary skill as your only damage toon, like the ranger and the paladin are kind of like that, depending on your build, you still do care about the resistance, but that's about it. But if you're playing something that cares about your skill damage, this is very important. And the upgrades here are very expensive. They're very gold expensive. So when you first unlock the magic shop, they're already like about on par with like the tier 4 blacksmith upgrades or whatever. So they're pretty crazy expensive, but they do help a lot if you're in that build. Those are the buildings. I will cover the chapel blessing in another video, but I also wanted to cover the guild upgrades, which are much harder to actually find anything about in the game here. So in order to check your guild tab, you press G, I think is the default key binding. I've messed with all mine, but to pull up this here tab, just like the character screen. So first thing about the guild that you'll upgrade, you can see here it says famous guild. That is like the title of guild I have. And you improve your guild title by filling this bar. This is your guild XP bar. And guild XP is gained by getting achievements. Every time you do something and like those little like notifications pop up that are like, you got 1,000 swords for doing whatever achievement, that's guild XP. That's what that number is. And when you fill this bar, you'll upgrade your guild title, and what that does is it gives you +3 skill points on every single character on your account. And that's why I made a brand new toon at the start of this video. I just made this priest. This priest is level 1. They have 21 skill points though, because I have a level 7, I guess it would be, guild title. So if I go up here to the skill trainer here, I can actually immediately take these 21 points to the bank on my level 1 character. And if you've already unlocked higher levels of the guild hall, you can just go straight in for really high level abilities. Like I can just go get this, tier 4 first level of this passive, which costs 10, and I still have 11 points left over. I could go get, like the first 2 levels of consecrated ground. The one thing I'll say about this, you're a level 1 toon and you have a level 1 maximum mana. So if you go get the high level skills, the 3rd skill and the 4th skill, note that those have a really high mana cost. So I've just unlocked tier 2 of consecrated ground. That costs 60 mana and I have 70 to begin with. So you might get a lot more mileage out of putting those into the passive skills like I just did. So let's check out, I just got this passive celestial orbs. 2 orbs rotate around your priest that fire small beams of holy light around you, dealing 8 magic damage. So I just got these little, Mario Kart turtle shells that just passively deal damage to everything around me on my level 1 toon. And this is actually a lot of passive damage for like a level 1 character, right? So it's super easy to play an alt character because you get high level skills immediately after you've played for a bit and upgraded your whole account with your guild upgrades. And there's a reason you want to do that. Because the other thing you can unlock here, if you check your guild hall, is your class titles. This is the other track of upgrade for your account. The way you upgrade a class title is you beat a boss on that character. So for each further boss you beat, you upgrade your class title by 1. And that'll give you a stat bonus to your entire account, not just that toon, but everybody. So for the paladin, for example, you get armor on all heroes. So I've got like +10 armor on everybody. That's like 2 blacksmith upgrades. For the ranger, I got +10 attack power, like same thing. For the Sorcerer, this is probably the best title in the game. You get plus mana regen on everybody, and you're reading that right. That is 1.5 mana per second on everybody, which is crazy. For the Warlock, you get resistance, not quite as amazing, right? Wizard, you get skill power. The Priest gives you health regen, which is also pretty crazy. This is plus 1 health per second, which is awesome. And then the Thief, he probably has the worst title bonus. It's plus gold gain. The only character this helps as far as like upgrading your stats in the dungeon is the Thief himself. The one thing for the other guys is it gives you more gold in the dungeon to then go buy items from shops with. But Thief has its own thing where it's super great at farming gold, so you will probably make a Thief just to get some extra gold if you're sort of like building up everybody, because that gives you gold to spend on these alt tunes. But as far as the other alt tunes you make, you probably want to make something that complements whatever your main is. So I started with Warlock. I went straight for Sorc to get some extra mana regen, because Warlock has this terrible primary attack. I'm only using skills to do damage. Why not have some more mana, right? So what these bonuses are can help you decide which other tune you might want to go make next and try out. And then if you want to see a pretty easy sheet to explain where you are as far as progress on each of these, rather than like pulling up a spreadsheet and comparing these values, click on the accomplishments tab and then scroll to the bottom of it. Right now it's just showing you the different achievements in the game, and like how much different achievement points and like guild XP you would get for getting them. These come pretty naturally just by playing, so probably just play the game and you'll get these naturally. You don't have to like focus on like reading through this. But if you scroll to the bottom of it, it shows you which bosses you beat on which character. So this is a pretty easy way to tell where you are as far as progressing those class titles. And you see I've got a little bit of a way to go, but I'm most of the way there for like, you know, the first playthrough of the game. So hopefully this video gave you a pretty good idea as far as what you should be doing with your ore, as well as how those different guild upgrades work. If there's any questions that I didn't answer in this video, drop them in the comments. I will read them and answer them as best I can. And if there's anything else you'd like to see explained, even tangential, you know, something off of this video, do feel free to drop that. I will have a chapel video coming out, and I do have class guides coming out. Warlock one just hit, and the others are on the way. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to see the other stuff, and I'll see you around.